So now for our next keynote speaker for today. He is a licensed professional teacher and a graduate of public administration at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. He was in his university years, serving in the UP Diliman's University Student Council for 2 consecutive terms. He has always been passionate about empowering through education. He was a teacher fellow for Teach for the Philippines, where he devoted 2 years of his life teaching in the far-flung community Paranglumba Elementary School in Siayan, Zamboanga del Norte. Currently, he is an alumni ambassador of Teach for the Philippines to the Planning Service Department of the Department of Education Central Office. He is also the co-founder of Super Reader Squad, an organization that promotes literacy at home. Ultimately, he dreams of an excellent, inclusive, and relevant education that is within the reach of those in the grassroots. Let us welcome to the virtual stage Mr. RJ Belen.
Maayong hapon sa tanan. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, thank you to Chris Library and Colgate Philippines for inviting me to deliver one of the keynote speeches for this conference, the Smile Space Digital Youth Peace Conference. I'm honored to be with all of you today, to be surrounded virtually by young blood, and to be able to share with you my personal story of Smile and my students' story of Smile. Ever since I was young, I've always wanted to become a teacher. My close friends would know how I wanted it so badly. They already heard my stories of waking up at 5 in the morning just to finish computing grades in my newly acquired class record, of inviting my friends over to our house to play teacher-teacheran, of making our stuffed toys march to receive handmade medals and ribbons in a mock commencement exercise, and many more strange stories of me growing up with the veneration of the teaching profession. But things started to change when I was about to graduate in high school. People started mocking the profession I wanted to pursue. They looked down on me for wanting to chase a dream that was not well compensated and did not pay the bills. They ridiculed my passion. They made fun of me. And so, I did not pursue education in college because back then, I did not have the guts to stand my ground. I let my inner voice be drowned out by the opinion of other people. I gave them the power to dictate my destiny. It was the thought of them saying, I told you so if I failed along the way, that hindered me from pursuing what I love. But as cheesy as this may sound, destiny really has its own way of writing things. I guess I couldn't run away from my passion for teaching because after my college graduation, I saw an opportunity to pursue it and I grabbed it. I decided to teach for 2 years in the far-flung community of Paranglumba Elementary School in Siayan, Zamboanga del Norte. From that experience, my eyes were open to the harsh realities that confront our education system. During my 2 year fellowship journey there, I also met 5 brilliant students whom I had the privilege to coach and tutor for the Philippine Science High School National Competitive Examination. Meron bang mga taga-Pisay dito? We branded our review session as Oplan Pisay or Operation Plan Pisay. And looking back, I realized that when I was a kid, I was privileged enough to have easy access to resources. I graduated from a provincial science high school. I had the privilege of attending a review center to prepare me for college admission tests, specifically for OPCAT, and it was because my parents could afford it and they unreluctantly signed me up for it. But this was not the case for my grade 6 students in Paranglumpa Elementary School. So, andyan si Esdra, si Jemarie, si Jean May, si Laika, and si Perfectua. Sir, ano na nga ulit yung singular, yung plural? Kailan may S at kailan walang S? Sir, ano yung was, ano yung were? Sir, paano kunin yung volume ng prism? Sir, ano yung pattern dito? Ano na yung susunod na integer? These were some of the questions that they asked during our review sessions. I could still remember the frustration that crippled my body during the very first day of our review session. I was frustrated because we really had to go back to basics. I also had a hard time making them understand the different concepts that needed to be taught. And when we talk about the PSI exam, at alam ko marami makakarelate dito, it's not enough that you know the basics. You should have more advanced knowledge to be able to pass the exam at the very least. But I took a leap of faith. We took a leap of faith because I believed in my students. Naniniwala ako sa sariling galing nila. I knew that they could do it and all they needed was a little push. So we carried on. The review sessions ran from June 30 of 2019 to October 12 of 2019. In total, we spent 12 Saturdays of grueling review sessions. Minsan full day, minsan half day. On top of that, there was also the bigger struggle of looking for ways to fundraise for the review materials. And these materials needed to be bought pa in Dipolog City, which was a 3-hour land trip from Cheyenne one way. So imagine kung balikan, 6 na oras na magbabiyahe. We also needed to raise funds for the transportation and accommodation expenses of my students in Dipolog for the exam day. And through our generous donors, we were able to raise enough money for that. During the last day of our review, I actually found myself strolling down memory lane. And I realized how these students of mine had grown leaps and bounds in just a matter of months. Perpetua was slowly mastering the rules of subject-verb agreement. Esdras could easily form a pattern in a given list of numbers. Laika found a renewed self-confidence. I was a witness to all that wonders, and most importantly, to how these students of mine put their best foot forward just to have a fighting chance. How Jinmei and Jemary would go the extra mile and review even on a Sunday. And I wouldn't lie, there were moments that my students would get tired, but there was never a moment that they considered quitting. I saw the fire in the eyes of my students, the blazing fire to pass the exam. So what do you think? Did they pass the PSI exam? Nakapasa kaya sila? Well, my students failed to pass the exam. I felt sad for them, for my students, and I was also disappointed in myself because I felt like I failed them. I failed my students despite doing everything in my power to prepare them. But then I realized that this was not about me. This was about my students. This was about my students' journey. And I think that while we failed the exam, my students lived to tell the tale that sometimes it's enough that we try. And in trying, we have already won. For some people, this would not qualify as a story of smile because we failed. It was a failure. But for me and my students, this is our story of smile. Because there's no victory too small considering that this was the first time students from Palanglunda Elementary School took the PSI exam. And I will forever bring this lesson with me that my students taught me. That sometimes it's okay to come short again and again and make mistakes because it is in our discomfort such as failure that our biggest growth in life happens. So when they say that we failed the PSI exam, we smile because this failure has motivated my students to keep on trying. And in the words of my student Laika, mag-try lang na mag-try hanggat maabot mo ang hinahangad mo. This failure has also motivated me to move forward and remain optimistic and help build a future that others can smile about as well. I've decided to commit to become a lifelong education advocate, to continue working with and for the underprivileged kids. As a technical assistant now in the Department of Education Central Office, as well as a co-founder of my organization, Super Readers Squad, an organization that works toward ensuring reading is a skill that every Filipino child possesses. This optimism that my students and I continue to carry and put into action can definitely change things for the better. So to end, I will leave you with 3 don'ts that I'd like you to commit to do in the future. First don't is don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to try pursuing your dreams. Just like what I did with my dream of becoming a teacher, even though it felt like the whole world was against me. Second don't is don't be afraid to fail. in the pursuit of trying something new. Just like what my students, Estras, Jemary, Jinmei, Daika, and Perpetua showed you in their Upland Design Chronicle. Lastly, and most importantly, don't forget to help others realize their dreams too, because that's when peace and unity happens. When we practice empathy toward other people, when we allow ourselves to be an instrument of kindness to other people, and when we start treating each other with respect. So again, don't be afraid to try, don't be afraid to fail, and don't forget to help others realize their dreams. When they say that you cannot do it, smile, move forward, and do your best in everything that you do. I hope you continue to live by these mantras, by these values, as you work toward a brighter, peaceful future we all can smile about. So maraming salamat at muli magandang hapon sa lahat.